You're listening to the Rock Jukebox on Hard Rock Hell Radio with Jeff Collins.
Now, in 1972, Yes released one of the best ever rock albums, Close to the Edge. The album featured a stunning cover and artwork by the artist Roger Dean, who also designed the band's iconic logo, which appeared for the first time on this record. Now, the band have been touring the UK to mark the album's 50th anniversary, and I was lucky enough to be at the gig in Birmingham. Now, in a moment, I'll be playing the track Siberian Cat True from the album. But Roger Dean was there, hosting an exhibition of his work. He also introduced Yes on stage after giving the audience a talk and a slideshow about his work, which also featured, of course, album covers for the likes of Asia and Uriah Heep. He explained to me how he first met Yes and got to work on Close to the Edge.
My first job on leaving college was to do Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club. I did the discotheque interior, and Ronnie Scott saw my work and asked me to do an album cover, and I did. That was for a rock band, but then I did a few for jazz bands, and I thought, I want to get out of this. I want to find more rock bands. And I went to see the A&R man who was at CBS, and he moved to MCA, David Howells. And I told him I wanted to do more rock and roll. And he gave me Osibisa, which had a huge effect for me. Got me a poster deal. We literally sold many, many millions of posters. And of course of Osibisa. And they did very well out of it too. But I liked the process, and I went to see another record company, Atlantic, and I met Phil Carson, who's a really nice guy, and he was really enthusiastic about my work. But he said, I only have two bands, Led Zeppelin and Yes. And he said, I'll give you a call as soon as someone wants a cover. And he did. And I met Yes, and it seemed to gel quite well, eventually.
That Yes logo, that very fluid Yes movement logo, that's become such one of the iconic band names of all time. Could you even imagine it would take off like that?
No, but I should just make sure you understand something. I did Fragile for a reason. It was meant to look like a 19th century illustrated book, because it was meant to be a book. But they never asked me, would you hang around and do another album cover for us? They went and did their tour, and I went off and did whatever I was doing. And I had no idea that they would come back and ask me to do another cover. But I did think I could do a better logo, and I did it on spec. It was just something I wanted to play with. And I've said it many times, but I actually did the drawings for it on a 1-hour train journey on one of the last runs of the Brighton Bell from London to Brighton over breakfast at Kippers. So I'm drawing and trying to keep the grease spots off the drawing. But yeah, in an hour I sketched it out, and it was still a rough sketch, and I had to make it into something crisp and ready. But I was very pleased with it, and I was very happy and confident going to show them. And the reaction was very good, because when they did ask me to do the cover, and I did the Close to the Edge painting, they loved it, which was a relief for me, because I loved it too. But what surprised me is that they liked the logo so much they wanted it on the cover. So I felt very honoured by that, but it was probably a right decision.
I mean, it was stunning. I remember seeing a big billboard in America of the Close to the Edge, before one of their concerts, and the bigger it was, the more epic it looked. It was just incredible. I mean, and of course after that, my favourite album cover of all time, Tales from Topographic Oceans, which is just mesmerising. Did the art come first? Did the name come first? How did that come about?
Well, there's a story there. John has a different story, so I won't undermine his story, but I'll tell you my story. I didn't do book covers, but I had a fascination with a book by an author called John Michel, who wrote a book called View Over Atlantis. It was about patterns in the landscape, magic and power lines like ley lines and dragon lines and stuff like that. And I was very intrigued by it. For example, there's lines across England that absolutely rule us straight, and on those lines are churches dedicated to saints who fought dragons, like St. Michael and St. George. And I agreed to do his paperback cover. And we became friends, and he helped us with a Latin text for one of the books we published. So that was the starting point with this. And we flew to Tokyo. I flew with the band on one of the early polar flights. And I remember that we were just normal from England to Anchorage. But John had this cake which the wives had made for the band to eat on the plane, and it was massively, let's put it this way, it had elements in the recipe that made it a kind of Alice in Wonderland eat me effort. I don't know who in the crew John gave it to, but it had the effect of having us stunned for a while, but it had the other effect of me not being able to stop talking. And I was sitting next to John, explaining in great detail about this book. John was, I guess, he was either tripping or appeared to be totally riveted. And we were flying over landscapes of northern edge of Siberia, and we were looking at these landscapes. Oh my God, look at this! And I was talking about patterns in the landscape and the power of them, and the geomancy in feng shui and this, because I'd picked up on feng shui living in Hong Kong as a child. So that's my background. When John asked me to do the album cover, he came up with the title Tales from Topographic Ocean, but he wanted to call it Toba, and I said no. People would just think I can't spell because I'm dyslexic. I'm not going to call it that. So there was a big toing and froing about that, but in the end it became topographic, as in topography. So where did the ideas come from? I'd have to say it was a mix. Definitely View Over Atlantis informed me, and John indirectly via me, because he came up with other ideas that fed into it as well. So the combination of his ideas and mine led to the songs and led to the painting. And all images on that painting, the rocks, stuff in the background, they're all real places, all with a real significance.
That's Yes and Siberian Cat True, excellent track from one of the greatest albums of all time. And before that, my interview with Roger Dean, who amongst many wonderful achievements and successes is responsible for many of those simply stunning Yes album covers and the band's iconic and easily recognisable famous logo.
Hard Rock Hell Radio. Radio louder than Thor himself.